head injury from snowboarding. So we talk about what's your excuse. We're going to give you the automated dialing process. That's about a 42-page document that's been written over the last couple of years, where it teaches you how to go from a list of leads or prospects and breaking those all the way down into what to do with those and how to interact with those potential leads. Our 3-year $1 million plan, so you can really see this scripted out if you're doing these types of deals and how you can make get to a point where you have $1 million revenue, plus a free strategy call, which Chris, myself, or our strategy expert, Brian O'Neill, will dive in and see how we can best help and help you implement this.
Yeah, if you guys do nothing else, that strategy call will be helpful for you. You get some really cool nuggets out of it. Joe already alluded to this. We're only talking about stuff we do. Joe and I had a couple conversations. We've chatted about this, that I hear nothing but great about him and vice versa. And look, we only teach what we do. It's not theory. It's not about marketing. It's about actually getting in the trenches. We do have a family team. Zach, I'll let you walk through a couple of these to give them a backdrop here.
Yeah, I love it. So Nick, Chris, and myself, we're 3 partners. We buy and sell real estate together. So the in-laws. And also, most importantly, if we look to the middle here, we have our Wicked Smart real estate community. In that room, that was about it was the last time we were live, and we controlled somewhere between 22 to $40 million worth of real estate with little to no money down. And actually, of our last virtual event, we controlled somewhere between $60 and $80 million nationally around the country with what we consider our associates. So not only are we a family team, but we've been able to build a massive family across the United States, which we would consider our associates at this point in time.
All right. So just a little backdrop. Joe gave it a lot of attention already. Joe, thank you. I've hit every niche since 1991, except for things like large apartment building syndication. Just choose not to do that and go raising money. I think it's a whole level of accountability and responsibility that I don't want to go to sleep with that night. And then the only other one would be mobile homes. Other than that, we've touched almost every niche. We got annihilated in 08. We then re-engineered the business to only focus on terms. And that is pointedly, we're going to talk about what it means by terms, because everybody has a little bit different interpretation of that. So for us, it means no banks, no investors, no large down payments. If there's no credit, it doesn't matter. Like when I came out of the 08 crash, this was what I was looking at. So there was no choice. It was, do we get back in business? If we do, here's the box of rules we operate in, or don't do it, because there was no cash or credit to speak of. And the bank wouldn't want my signature if I gave it away.
Yeah, so the 3 ways that we buy are owner financing, and we niche that down even further. We target free and clear properties. That way we can construct principal only payments on the properties. We do those day in and day out. We do lease purchases, or also known as lease options, where you control the property and be able to have the option to purchase it, and subject to deals where we close on the property subject to the existing financing on the property, title transfers, but mortgage remains in that seller's name.
Yeah, and I know if you're on Joe's list, you're already kind of upper level, I'll call it. I get that you know what's going on. So I just want to be pointed here with our conversations. If you're looking for supplemental income, a lot of our students just go, hey, if I do a few houses a year at the kind of profit you guys are talking about, 75 grand up to 250 grand, some of our students, I'm happy. So I just want to do a few deals. Great. If you're looking for replacement income during COVID, we helped about 10 people, maybe more, move from corporate, I can't stand this anymore, I can't get on planes, to doing this full time. Great, we can do a plan for that. If you want to do these deals in your IRA, self-directed or Coverdell, I've done both and still do both. I just tell people, look, get your cash flow fixed, wherever fixed means for you, and then let's plow a bunch of deals into the self-directed, or your own house for that matter. And Zach has a phenomenal all the way A through Z experience with doing his own house and walking out of there with 6 figures.
Yeah, this was a property that I purchased. It was about 2 years ago. Me and my wife went and purchased this property on a lease option. The seller had a 15-year mortgage and was about 9 years into it. There was about 6 years left. So basically there was $1,000 coming off of principal every single month. So what me and my wife did is we purchased this property, locked in the equity with the seller, which allowed us to benefit from that principal pay down. We did end up cleaning this property up, meaning we put a new deck on it. We did dump in about 60 grand. I'm not saying you have to do that on every single deal, but we were living in the house. And the reason why we needed this was because we were self-employed and we needed roughly 24 months worth of seasoning. So me and her were able to purchase a property, even though a bank wouldn't finance us, right on the water down here in Southern Rhode Island. Instead of going to close on the property, which we originally intended to, the market skyrocketed around here. So we actually exited the deal and were able to net somewhere about $125,000 from that. But again, I put down $2,500 when I moved in and $2,500 at 6 months in for a deposit. So really
and
cool.
The only reason you did that is because it's your house. That's the exception. Usually we don't put, that's a high down payment actually for 2,500. All right. So guys, I should have said this too. And we're going to go through a real deal for sub 2, a real deal for owner financing, and a real deal for sandwich at the 3/4 mark here. So you're going to see how this all plays out that Zach was just alluding to. Go ahead, Zach. You can hit lead gens. It's kind of your specialty.
Yeah. So as far as where these leads come from, this isn't rocket science. So some of these things that I'm going to say, you're probably like, yeah, I totally get it. But realize if you're in a different niche and then you're actually still fishing in these same ponds, we're using different scripts and we're actually using a little bit different techniques. So you can still pull out, great deals out of these. So for sale by owners is a good spot. Either you or your VAs are going to be calling on all of these. For rent by owners, another good one. Expired listings has been our bread and butter for the past 7-8 years now. And niche lists is something that we are always looking to continuously target. I know Joe and I were talking offline before we hopped on. Vacant, out-of-state owners, absentee owners, great niche lists in order to be able to construct these types of terms deals.
And Zach, I know we're hitting a good list right now. It's good for these investors here. We talk about it on Clubhouse, and that's the over 30% of equity, and even better, over 30% equity with kind of a tax problem.
Yeah, that or a notice of default right now. So what we're seeing right now, and I'm sure you guys can attest to it, right now there's so much default happening because of COVID. So what our mission to do is really to help out sellers be able to keep some of their equity and not get their credit absolutely crushed because they've worked their butt off for the last 20 years building up equity in their home. And then all of a sudden for the last 6 months, they've been put in a bad position. So they're going to lose it all if they cannot catch up that default. So we're working with and helping those types of sellers. We'll catch up their default and we'll take on a property, either sub 2 or owner financing. And that way they still get something out of this deal without getting completely crushed and losing it all.
Yeah, and I want to make kind of a bold statement, you guys that are in the audience. You've got a window here, in my opinion, and I'm certain that Zach and Joe will be on the same page here. In the next 9 to 12 months, with all these forbearances and all the craziness that went on, you have a lot of people that built up a lot of equity in 9 years, but unfortunately, it's going to be gone. They're going to lose it if they can't keep their houses. So the opportunity for us, not just to help people like Zach said, but to go ahead and make it a win-win-win for our potential buyers that you'll learn about in a second, and us with the 3 paydays, is intense. So much so that I think you have an opportunity to build a decade of income in the next year. That's what I'm helping our students just fast forward this and be in a position so you can say, wow, I was part of that cool process that went on during the market. We are not, people say to us, well, okay, I heard Zach say owner financing, principal only payments. How do you convince a seller? Everyone says that to us. We don't. We seriously listen nonstop to solve problems in the case of this COVID stuff we're talking about, or help a seller who's free and clear. They don't have a problem. They're free and clear. Help them reach their ultimate goal. It could be tax reasons. It could be estate planning reasons. It could be, look, I want the max dollar, to which I say, fantastic. Give me the right term. I don't care about your price to a certain extent. So all we're doing is solving problems. We're not convincing anyone of anything.
Yep. So how do we sell these properties? So we're typically selling these properties to two different methods in which we sell these properties, but we are selling them to rent to own buyers, or tenant buyers, as we call them. So people that are just outside of financeability, cannot get a bank loan right now. So these buyers come from a couple different places. They're going to be someone who's self-employed. They're going to be somebody who had a legitimate hiccup in their credit. And they're going to be somebody that is going to have a job change, or even somebody that is never, ever going to be financeable, like we call sideline buyers. So people that are from outside the country, or people that just, period, do not want to go get a bank loan.
Yeah, I'll give a quick example of that, Zach, before we dive in. So you'll know the house I'm talking about. We had a 2-unit we had on a sandwich lease. We then, a little bit more sophisticated technique, we then converted that to a sub 2. We then sold it to a tenant buyer. It's only a $250,000 house that we were selling. We sold it to a tenant buyer that will never be bankable from another country. That is I haven't met a harder worker. She has like 6 businesses, and she put down $100,000, and we owner financed her. So that little 3-year sandwich lease became a no end date sub 2, became a 20-year, 30-year super profitable deal with the buyer. So we'll talk about how that all looks. I just want to give you a kind of a little teaser there. The cool thing about the rent to own option versus the owner financing is, and we transition through both, as Zach alluded to, but it lets them act like, behave like, pay for things like, capture equity like they're a buyer. Everything's the same while they're qualifying for a mortgage, and qualifying could be seasoning, could be rebuilding credit, any of the above. But it's a really cool option, especially now. I just got done another consultation with these finance guys I talk to often. We exchange podcasts, and they said, your niche is so cool with what's going on. And I said, yeah, it gets even better when things kind of flatten out, even though it's great right now, because I've got great credit. I've got 800 credit. It was in the toilet when I started terms, but for even me to go through the qualification process, it's ridiculous. And so we're giving people an opportunity to kind of bridge that gap and have an on-ramp to get a mortgage and not be stressed out. It's a little crazy when you start looking at that.
Yeah. So as far as running this overhead of the business, we always put out there it's about $1,000 or less to run this business. And how can we say that? We say that because our lead sources are non-expensive. We use lead sources that you're probably familiar with. My Plus Leads and PropStream, both of them have very nominal monthly fees. Your main fees are going to come from your VAs. I'm a huge fan of having virtual assistants making outbound calls, especially ones that are well trained, because if you're brand new to this business, the self-confidence boost that you get when you know you have leads that are coming in are significant versus you always making all the outbound calls and having to learn day in and day out from every single one of those calls. And that way you can focus on the higher level. So that's your main overhead. And if you decide to use like a CRM, we use Freedom Soft. That's gonna bring you another couple hundred a month. And if you're starting to do some direct mail or some targeted mailings, then of course that's going to come with a cost as well. But across the board, our students are roughly spending $1,000 or less, and some even $500 less, depending upon how much they're outsourcing.
Yeah, and that to get to the 3 paydays is pretty intense. I'm going to give you some actual numbers here that our family team uses, but just so everybody's on the same page, payday 1 is a non-refundable down payment. I will tell you, and I know Joe agrees with this, there are mentors right now. Just go on YouTube and you'll see them. Not now, please, but later. Go on and see them. They'll say, yeah, you just collect a deposit from a tenant buyer, and who cares if they get financing? They're saying that publicly, and that might be okay.
Chris, that annoys me to no end.
I know we've talked about this. So here's the deal, guys. That might be okay the way they have their little legal setup, okay? But that morally and ethically stinks. So Zach and I, and my son-in-law Nick is actually our buyer specialist. We put the buyers through a pretty grueling process. They've got to qualify on the front end and back end housing ratios. They've got to have everything in place, knowing that, okay, it's either seasoning or job related or credit related, but everything else is okay. And here's your game plan, and you will get cashed out unless you screw it up or you have a life event. Life events happen. So payday 1 is a non-refundable down payment. Payday 2 is the spread between what we're paying the owner or their underlying debt and what we're collecting from our tenant buyer. And payday 3 is the actual cash out. But that's super cool. You're going to see in the live deals how much this principal pay down slams down the principal so that it makes it such a resistant to any recession and any cycles. And that's why we've done so well here with some of these deals. Let me give you the actual numbers. These are our actual team numbers. They're actually creeping up. They started years ago down in the 20-something grand range for all 3 paydays. But, we tweak, we get better and better. We get ideas from our Wicked Smart community, which is our students. And now we're up to upwards of 78 grand or so. So these numbers are slightly low. Here's the cool thing. Zach and I were speaking today on Clubhouse, and they said, one of the questions they asked is, why this niche and how'd you get here? Here's what I said as part of my answer, not the whole answer. Why get paid once is what I said. Why in the world would you get paid once when you can get paid 3 paydays? And look what happens here. This was a 12-month look back of about 22 deals or so. And in that one look back, this will let you see how you can get off the treadmill eventually, or get off the treadmill for 3 months and get back on if you want. but we accumulated payday one's about almost 600 grand. Payday twos, keep in mind, this is the net difference between in and out on that monthly payment, $6,500. Do the math, back it out backwards. I think it's like 11 million, whatever the number is, that you have to have in the bank passively to kick that out. That was created in 12 months. And then payday threes, they'll be tiered. It won't all be, hey, 3-year leases or 4-year lease or whatever it is. They'll be tiered between 1 and 10 years. But you could sit there and put that on a spreadsheet and go, got it, I got my cash flow. There's about a 2 to 5% default. As stringent as we are. Why? Life happens. COVID happened. We lost 2 buyers. We had to resell the house conventionally. Things will happen despite every effort you have. But that's an inverse relationship to a lot of the other people that are educating. Unlike Joe and I and Zach, we believe in that, not, oh yeah, 20% if I'm lucky get cashed out. I've heard that. It's crazy. So that's a nice look back, creating almost $1.7 million in paydays. All right, we're going to dive into some deals, and then we're going to take a breather and do some Q&A as I'm sure they're accumulating. Zach, why don't we
It's the
take
time
this
everyone's
question?
been waiting for, Chris. Come on, they actually want to see deals. I know they're high level. They've been hanging out with Joe. Let's talk about a sandwich lease purchase. This property, I'm sure many of you have asked, like, can you buy remotely with these? This property is actually on the other side of Connecticut, which is about 3.5 hours away from us. So I've never seen this property. It was a realtor referral. So I want to put this bold statement out there. This realtor, by not understanding these techniques in how to buy these properties this way, lost out on a massive amount of money. And we work with a lot of realtors now as our students and teach them how to be able to include this as a technique that they have to be able to service and to be able to work with more sellers and more buyers. Okay. So the debt equity on this property, and the reason why it's written out is because we lock in the equity above and beyond what the mortgage is on this property. That allows you to benefit from principal pay down, which we'll dive in payday 3. So 283 term is a 36-month term. That used to be our average. Our average now sits at about a 60-month term, 48 to 60-month term now with these lease purchases. And that was just simply because now we're just offering those as options versus the 36 months. We sold it for $329,900. All right. Deposit from the buyer was $24,000. Not all of it, in fairness to everyone, not all of it is payday number one are always accepted at the closing, or we would consider a closing, but it's a formal lease signing. So this person, I believe, came in with someone just above 10,000, and then it was structured over their lease term in order to get them up to 24,000, which gets them closer to where I was looking for 10% or above.
Zach, let me just jump in there too, buddy. So people can visualize this. Things like tax refunds. Okay, we're in that time right now. So we'll schedule like, hey, the next 2 years, what are you getting for a tax refund? And maybe we'll have 50% allocated to the payday one. Whatever it might be. One was a state trooper who had sergeant pay retroactive, and he knew that was coming. So whatever it is that we can schedule for more of ones, so that A, helps our cash flow, B, gets them more vested in the home, C, it puts them in the best light for a mortgage. And so if they can get more down and get better credit, that's better for them. So I just want to add that.
No, great point. All right. So payday 2. So the spread in which we're creating is $527 a month. So it's about just under $19,000 for the 36-month term. Payday 3, the markup on the home was $46,000. Increase as far as the principal pay down on this property was about $15,000 or just under 16. We have to subtract what we already collected, which gives us a back end total profit of payday 3 of just over 38,000. So if you add this all up, watch the red circles go. Just over $80,000 if it goes full term in order to, as far as our total 3 paydays on this deal, which you don't see any deposit. We didn't put any money down.
Pretty cool. So that's a sandwich. We'll do a owner financing and a sub 2, and then take a deep breath and do some Q&A, and then we'll give you some resources. This was a simple lower end home in Massachusetts. It did also came from an expired listing, but it actually was a different property. The gentleman lost his dad and was liquidating an estate. I met him through that. They said no to terms because they siblings wanted to cash out. I understand that. About 6 months later, he called back and said, hey, can you come do that owner financing thing? I got one property left. I'm relocating to South Carolina and I'm leaving Monday. This is like a Thursday or Friday. So Nick and I actually at that time went in and talked with the owners. Here's how this thing played out. He was on the low 200s with a realtor. I asked a simple question and simple script. What did you think you were going to net when you were on the realtor? You didn't, but what did you think you were going to net? He said 183.9. I said, great, I can give you the 183.9. We're going to structure a 48-month term. And we went off to the rent-to-own market and sold for 239.9. Now, this was an older deal, and so we don't take as low deposits anymore, but we did take a 15 grand down at that time. And then payday 2 looks like this. We have a monthly principal pay down. This is what Zach was talking about earlier when we do a niche within a niche. This owner financing deal that was debt-free, we are paying the owner instead of the bank $923 a month, all going to principal. Plus we have insurance costs there. So we got $1,500 from the buyer every month. It's about a $23,000 payday 2 if it stopped at 48 months. Now, this deal pivoted 3 times. There's 3 deals after the deal, and I'll just mention how it looks briefly at the end of this. Payday 3, we marked the house up 56 grand. See the principal pay down? This is where the recession resistance comes in. 44 grand just in 4 years on this one deal in principal pay down. So at the closing table, conventionally, you would take away the deposit. You're still left with 85 grand just on that one payday. So let me give you a metric here. The metric on this owner financing deals all day long, if you do it right and don't mess it up in the meantime, is if you have a house, I'll use round numbers, $200,000 purchase. If you structure a payment of $925 a month principal only or more, and you have 4-year terms or more, the 3 payday system, 6 figures every time. And we have associates doing $500,000, $600,000 purchase. And now you're talking about $180,000, $200,000 all 3 paydays. It's pretty cool. We're actually at the lower end of our student base, our Wicked Smart community, because we're in a lower end area price wise. So that's the owner financing deal. I'll tell you a quick pivot on how this changed. So every year, Zach and I and Nick will reach out around holiday time to sellers and say, hey, I know you got a balloon coming in this case, in year 2 or 3 coming up. How about if we pay down on the principal? So not a fee, not an option to extend. We pay down on the principal. So we send you another $6,000. It comes off the principal at the end. But for that, you extend us 12 months. They said yes. So now a 4-year deal became a 5-year. The following year, they emailed us and said, hey, will you do that thing again? Because it's cash flow for them. And from a tax standpoint, they like the owner financing system we have. So we said yes, we extended it again, became a 6-year deal. And then the following year, which was a year and a half ago, Zach said, why don't you see if they'll go out 15 years and we'll add some interest. Their accountant loved it. They loved it. And now this deal became a 21-year deal. Pretty cool. So it's always a deal after the deal. We call it like payday 4 and 5. These are just like basic ones we're showing you, but I want to give you a taste for what you can really do when you start to understand how to structure these things. And then we'll do a sub 2 here, Zach, and then we'll take a deep breath, I think.
Yeah, I'll give you some background. This was a couple. They were about to get a divorce. They actually just spent, I think it was like $10,000 on credit cards, Home Depot credit cards, in order to fix up this property. And then they decided they were gonna leave. This house is located in Cape Cod, which I don't know where you guys are located in the country, but it's a really well-known place in a great location. So we ended up buying this property on an installment sale or a subject to deal. I mean, we closed on the property subject to the existing loan, and we did create some installments in there to help with their credit card debt. That way, I could provide a solution. As Chris said earlier, it's all about finding out what their challenges are and providing that solution. The source was an expired listing. They tried to sell it on the open market a couple times and it did not work. It's a nice move-in ready home. We ended up buying this property somewhere at $355,941. The property was on the market for $425. So how we got that big of a discount was just we solved that challenge. I remember we traveled, I think we were in Texas at Note School, hanging out with Eddie Speed. And I was just going back and forth with the seller, and she talked herself down from a $400,000 purchase price all the way down to the $355, as long as we could handle helping her with that credit card debt. So that way she could move to Phoenix and the husband could move out of state as well. We sold the property for exactly what it was on the market for originally, $425. And we sold the property. This is really cool. So a lot of times we'll sell a property on a lease purchase or rent to own to a tenant buyer. And if we have title to the property, we say, hey, at the end of your term, which this one is about 30 months, the end of your term, we can, if all your deposits are on time, all of your rents on time, we could finance the property for you. And that may be for another seminar, but we could sell it on a wrap mortgage as well. And now we can make this a real long-term deal, and we don't have to go to the bank, or they don't have to go to the bank either. So we took in, I believe it's $31,000 up front at closing, and then we accepted an additional $10,000 over about 24 months. So that's your payday number one, that non-refundable deposit. Payday two, we're coming out of pocket just over $2,000, and we're collecting, I believe, just under 25. Yep, which is going to create a 473 spread. As you can see, that's the 29 months.
For the viewers, so it says payment to seller. We pay the mortgage company directly. I just want to make sure everybody gets that. So especially on a sub two, but even on a sandwich, we pay the mortgage company directly. I don't want to have 60 properties out there paying the seller and just praying they paid, and I got to monitor all that crap. So we pay the mortgage company directly, and there's no exceptions to that, where the seller has a conversation with us. I don't want to have to worry about them and put my buyer at jeopardy.
It's a huge point. That's a look under the hood real quick about the operations too. That's awesome. Yeah, great point. Payday number three. So that back end profit that we're going to create, and this is all just on 29 months. I can tell you this deal is going to go a lot longer than 29 months.
Sorry, I slow at the clicking here.
Come on, Chris. We talk fast, but your fingers slow. $69,000 was the markup. Principal pay down on this property was $569. So that's 16 grand. So subtract the 41,000, and that's going to bring you to 44,000 on the back end. There was actually arrears. This is always a good point because we want to show you the good, bad, and the ugly. Also, that not every deal is cookie cutter. I can tell you that's the reason why Chris and I are in this line of business, is because every deal is different. So it keeps things fun and fresh. They were actually going on to their third month of arrears, and she was extremely worried about it. So what we did is we caught them up and we committed to the deal, and we took on the property, because not every one of these deals do we commit to. Actually, all of our agreements are contingent upon finding a third party. So that always puts you in the best position to have a buyer in hand before you take on the responsibilities of each one of these properties.
Yeah, and as you get more sophisticated, you'll do what we did here. And I shouldn't say sophisticated, as you get a deal or two under your belt and you have payday ones, twos, and threes scheduled, then perhaps on your third or fourth deal, if the seller was in this predicament, or if the seller said, oh man, I could give you a better deal if you could just get this, you have the options because you have other money coming in. That's exactly what we did prior to collecting the 41 grand.
This will give you the totals just based on the 29 months. Just under 100,000 on this deal. Again, I expect this deal to last much longer, much longer on this.
All right, why don't we do, Joe, are there questions we can do for maybe like 5 or 7, then we could give a refresher, then we could show them some resources?
Oh yeah, for sure. Do you want me to read the questions to you, or do you want to just go through the chat yourself?
You or Kristen or anyone can read them. We could take the pain off of you.
Yeah. So I'll just read a few of them that I saw here. Somebody was asking about an equity split with a seller in a sandwich lease option deal. What are the pros and cons of doing an equity split with a seller in a sandwich lease option deal?
Okay, good question. So we have what we call an AO, we call it, which for us is an assign out. If we're going to give the owner any money or equity, it's usually going to be done by pivoting to an AO deal where we take our buyer, assign it to them, and only take a payday one. I can maybe think of, and Zach could tell me in his student base too, but we don't split equity, but there might have been a student or two we helped split equity, but it doesn't happen often. Zach, thoughts?
I'd like to say that there's no deal that fits inside a box. So right. if in order to get a better deal, that is a challenge in which we need to face with a seller, and it's going to create, a good 3 paydays for us. And I'm willing to look at almost anything.
It's all numbers. Yeah.
Hey, by the way, I'm making you guys co-hosts. I didn't know if you could see the chat questions or not, but I just made you co-hosts.
Oh, I've been watching them come in. These are
okay. All right, good. Couple questions related here. Where are you finding expired listings now? Every market is so hot. Another one is asking, how are you doing deals in this market where the nation is a hot seller's market? This is a real common question.
Oh yeah. It's the most common question that we get every single day.
Why don't you take the expired, Zach? I'll take the back end of that one. We'll split it.
Yeah, good. So expired listings, we use that source My Plus Leads. They always produce for sale by owners, for rent by owners, and expired listings, canceled withdrawals. I think it's like $80 a month for that. We've been using them for 7 years. Their database and they pull everything. But to your point, there's less expired listings now because most markets are hot. So what are we doing? We're taking on new lead sources that we didn't have to use before. So now we're focused more on niche lists in order to drive up leads. Like right now, if you're targeting subject to deals, which was the last deal we did, I'd be looking for, absentee owners, out-of-state owners that have, 10% equity or less in these properties. So you can start targeting these sub twos. And then we're running them through our normal marketing campaigns, just like we would do with expired listings. So just utilizing different resources as well.
One of the things that we're doing now I've been seeing good success with is sending marketing to the owners and to the realtors of older listings. So there's a lot of properties that have been on the market over 60, 90 days. Mm-hmm. And if they haven't sold yet, the reason usually is because they're overpriced. They're just asking too much for it. But it's surprising how many of those sellers are open to some kind of creative financing. So I've been sending simple yellow letters saying, hey, listen, we're investors. We'd like to buy your house. We can probably pay you what you're asking for. We're just wondering if we could maybe lease it for a year or so first. Just kind of get the door open a little bit, get our foot in the door a little bit. And it's pretty cool. There's a lot of creative ways. I'm bringing that up because we're still doing deals in this market. Yeah. The market is hot. Maybe it's a little harder to get leads now than it was 5-7 years ago, but we're still doing deals today. It still works, right?
You want another great one?
Yeah.
Jumbos. So as I said earlier, the lower end of the buyers, the lower end income wise are getting pushed out, but the higher end are getting pushed out. Quick example. Student in Colorado calls on a 1.2, I'm going to round number, $1.2 million listing expired because these jumbos are hard to get now. Some banks are still not doing them. I had a guy call me to redo my house because I have, it's mostly equity. And he said, oh no, we don't do jumbos. I just started chuckling. Here's what happened. This guy gets to the closing table during COVID. He's got 760 or 770 credit. He's got about a year reserves and he's got 10% down. They kick it out during COVID.
Wow.
He finds our student, gets the same house under agreement with rent to own. Now we gave him this 2-year ramp. That's all he needed. The seller thought it was brilliant. Same buyer. He couldn't go that path. So that's a great source too.
Yeah.
And Chris, I just got back from an appointment today. So talk about still doing deals, right? We don't just talk about it. I drove about an hour and a half into Connecticut and came back. Sellers, we're going to be buying this property on subject to the existing loan. Today, if they sold their property, because they're selling roughly what they owe, if they sold their property, then they would be coming out of pocket almost $25,000 to $30,000 in order to pay for closing and a realtor. And, or what they could do is try to potentially short sell this thing. So there's so many people out there. I don't care how hot the market is. There's so many people out there that the traditional market cannot service and they cannot be the solution. So you just have to be out there and willing to look for them.
Here's a real good thing too. And I don't know if you can see my camera, if it's working or not, but no big deal.
Yep.
There is always going to be at least 5 to 10% of people that sell their houses will have some motivating factor. There are all in hot markets, cold markets, there will always be at least 5% of sellers that are motivated, going through a divorce, job loss, they're a tired landlord. They have 2 mortgage payments. They just had a job transfer, job loss, some death in the family. There will always be those sellers. And people think like the market is so hot right now. All you got to do is stick a sign in the yard and you get multiple offers in a day. Well, if that's the case, I could go into any market right now in the United States, no matter how hot you think it is, and I can find hundreds of deals that have been sitting on the market for 60, 90 days. I show people this all the time in Redfin. It's so easy to go in there and look. If the market is so hot, why are these houses sitting on the market so long? Because they're overpriced. And there's always going to be motivated sellers. The market, people will die. People will be tired landlords, no matter what direction the market is going into, right? So anyway, just get that out of your head. I call it stinking thinking that the market is too hot and you can't do deals here. It's ridiculous.
Love it.
Yes, I love stinking thinking. That's perfect.
Well, here's the other thing I say, guys. I tell people, you know what? You're right. It doesn't work. Why are you even here? Like, go do something else. Go trade currencies or something. Like, just forget about it. You're right. It doesn't work. I'll do the marketing. I'll take all the leads. I'll take all the money. Go do something else. So sometimes it's just better to agree with them than try to argue with them. Anyway.
I agree. Joe, why don't I blast through and then I'll hang out unlimited for Q&A too. Again,
good.
So we'll get this. Yeah, we'll keep it rolling. What I want to do here is you listen to Zach and I blab the whole time. And I know you already like listening to Joe, but I'm going to let you hear like 5 or 6 different, we call them associates, but they're students just like you who have kind of had a path or two different, but coming out the back end, really, really good position-wise, meaning with the profits. So just a minute or two video.
Hi everyone, this is Greg and Cami Goucher from Northeast Ohio.
My name is Bill Reich.
Hey, Chris Dunn Strickland here.
We are Lauren and Steve Murnick.
Roger Campbell.
Russell Ham.
This is Nathan Bukite.
This is Mike from California.
Prior to joining the team, my wife and I believed the lies that we needed to go get our master's degrees and to climb the corporate ladder.
I was in commercial and investment real estate for the better part of 30 years.
So we do not come from real estate backgrounds.
I've been teaching for 20 years.
Still working a corporate job, doing this part-time, sometimes part-time.
Spent countless thousands of dollars on courses and webinars and books and tapes, and most of you probably know what I'm talking about.
And then I bought the book, Real Estate on Your Terms. And then from there, the QLS. And I just kept diving in further and further. I was liking what I was reading.
That got me hooked. I thought this would be a niche that I can grab hold of.
And we joined the team in January of 2019, and what an amazing year we have had.
It has changed my life completely over the last year.
We've got 18 deals tied up total, which equates to about $4.3 million in total value.
Driving out to another buyer's signing today, going to collect another $15,000 check.
We just sold our 7th home, three paydays each. We have about $700,000 in the hopper, and we're on track to do $1 million by the end of the year.
Have almost $300,000 worth of deals under my belt.
So total profits that we have right now are $727,000.
And it's not even about making the first million, which I know I'm going to make, but it's about changing my mindset.
Here we're starting to see the fruits of our labor.
And we're on the verge of our lives changing significantly.
It all starts with the QLS course.
The effort that you put in is going to be the effort that they match with.
If you're serious about making money and being really good in what you do in real estate investing, QLS is a no-brainer.
I tell myself, you got to have a long-term mindset with it, just like what the family was preaching.
Joining up with Chris and the family is a no-brainer.
Anyone who doesn't become a part of this or hear about it and doesn't venture out to become a part, I mean, you're missing out on something real, something authentic, something that is going to add multiple dimensions to your life.
I encourage you to definitely take a look at it, meet with Chris, and jump right in it and take advantage of this terrific opportunity. You won't regret it.
And I urge you to do it, and I look forward to seeing you on the other side.
Look forward to many more deals. All right, have a great day.
Whoops. All right, guys. So I just want to get a taste for the community a little bit. Many of them, with the exception of 2, went full-time already. So it's pretty cool. We do what Joe and I have discussed in the past, and that is, compared to a lot of people out there, we are concerned with you doing deals. So we bridge the gap. And the gap is the time from when you take a course to when you actually do a deal. And sadly, Zach and I field calls every week where people go, yeah, I spent X amount. I've never done a deal. One of the guys you saw in that video came to me several years ago. I think it was like 14 or 15 and said, I spent 6 figures, Chris. I've yet to do a deal, to the point where his wife didn't want him to even talk to us. Now he's part of the community and the rest is history. But that's what I mean by bridging the gap. It's super important, and we're laser focused on that as a company. In fact, our mission is driven around transactions, not sales, transactions. Big, big difference. You heard them talk about QLS. So Zach, just walk them through quickly. I'll say this. I want you guys to know
Hey,
resources for
Chris,
free.
Chris, real quick, William right here says, off after almost 4 years with SREC, that's you guys, Smart Real Estate Coach, it's still a no-brainer. This guy's been with you for 4 years, William. That's so awesome.
Bill, good to see you, buddy.
All right.
Not see you because I can't see you, but good to hear you.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Zach.
Love it. So, yeah, we all start with the QLS Home Study course here in our Quantum Leap system. So mod 1, we're going to get you launched into our system. We're going to give you the basics. We're going to create a predictable, trackable system. This is a business. We're going to give you all the tools to create that 6 to 7 figures, all the scripts. We complete 25 to 30 transactions per month. We didn't dive into a lot of this. We don't do much of it anymore. The assign out technique, but Chris did briefly touch upon it. Our entire buyer process. So my brother-in-law is an absolute man when it comes to pulling out these 5 and 6 figure deals by selling them to the right buyers and getting the right buyers to the finish line. So that his entire process is in there. How to structure these owner financing deals, which you saw an example of. How to do our sandwich lease purchases as well, and these sub 2 deals. So each one of these, we've been told by other people in which we've spoken at, could be its own course. We don't sell courses. What we do is we give you a system in order for you to be successful. And then how to tie it all together, when to use which type of technique. And then all of our contracts, like literally broken down on when to get what signed, depending on the deal. And then we have an archive of our monthly Wicked Smart workshops where we dive in live on structuring these deals, which actually tomorrow would be the Wicked Smart workshop. So as soon as you dive in and get your free gifts, you could certainly message our support and make sure you're getting on that. It's between 4 and 5 p.m. Eastern time. We're going to dive into some great live deals.
Yeah, that's free. And Zach, just because Joe's here, I'll say, actually, one of the there's no names needed, but a mentor that we all 3 of us know said to me years ago, you are crazy to give them all that information. You said you're nuts. You should be breaking that up and marketing it differently. So it's comical sometimes what's out there. This is a quick look online of the QLS course. So you get a visual of it. It is online academy. It is a living, breathing course. It's not here you go, it's done, or else we would have already been outdated with COVID. So we are going through the mods, and I gotta tell you, it's painful because we have to update it constantly from a legal standpoint, from a content standpoint, from a COVID standpoint, and you'll get a glimpse of it here, the how robust it is.
While you're showing, well, never mind, I'll wait.
Hi, it's Chris Prefontaine, and I want to thank you for your interest in the Quantum Leap system, or QLS, as you'll hear us refer to many times. Commit to doing whatever it takes for however long it takes to create a monster lifestyle, whatever that is for you. And I'm not talking just financially, but a lifestyle you want and deserve and wish to design. I look forward to working together.
Joe, do you want to add something before I plow on and finish?
Well, yeah, guys, I never put anybody on these webinars that I've not fully vetted. And, a lot of times I've had private conversations with them. I have had them on my podcast, and I've actually gone through their courses and materials. And I went through Chris's course. He made me sign an NDA, and it's like he takes it very, very seriously. And Chris, I was thoroughly impressed with the quality of your course, everything that you've got in there, how organized it is, how everything is laid out. And I was also really impressed and frankly, quite a bit jealous. You're challenging me here. With the case studies that you have of real live seller calls, real deals that you break down and show from your own business and from your students, but you break down a lot of example deals. And I think that's really, really key. And I have a lot of that in my courses as well, but not as much as you. So come on, man. But anyway, seriously, it's very, very thorough. I was really impressed how it was laid out. Very simple to follow. It's not disorganized. It's very step by step, A to B to C, which I thought you guys did a really, really good job of that. And so I'm impressed with how simple you keep it, how thorough the course is, and how many examples you have in there of case studies and live seller calls and buyer calls, and just the A to Z process of all of it. You guys done a really, really good job. And I'm proud to put my stamp of approval on it.
I appreciate that. And sincerely, I know if Zach feels the same way, Joe, we run the same wavelength as far as what we need to deliver ethically, morally, and it means a lot. So thank you. I mean that. Typically, guys, if you go on our site, it's $9.97, and there is a 2 and a 3 pay. Again, our goal is get you in the community so that you can see the potential of the 3 paydays versus selling something. If it was selling something, it'd be $5 grand or 10 grand. For Joe's database, we are doing it at $7.97. You will not see that anywhere. And the link is up top, smartrealestatecoach.com/Joe M. Very simple. It does come with a money back guarantee. We do not want, the family does not want anyone going to the course and hanging out if you don't feel it's a fit for you. I will tell you this, very limited, and usually it's, oh, you know what? I just had a major financial issue. I can't do this. And they should have maybe done it in the first place, right? If they needed money like they needed water, it wasn't a good move. That's usually the only reason for a refund, because the course, as Joe said, is quite robust. Every single one of you, I don't care if you go forward to the resources or not, you get these resources for free that Zach went over with you. But I know some of you jumped on later, like 30 or 40 of you. So if you go to that link, you don't have to buy. You grab all those free resources right there that Zach went over. So you get the books, you get everything. You don't have to go to Amazon, and you get some really cool takeaways. And the strategy call is well worth it. If you decide, hey, I want to get to the next level here, I don't care if you learn this to buy your house like Zach did, and you never do a deal. It will be a skill set that generationally you can help your family with, generationally. So forget the profit center for a second. It's worth learning for that reason. Life does reward action. So I said at the very beginning that for Joe's group, because of our relationship, we are throwing literally everything we have at anyone that wants to buy the QLS so that it makes it a complete no-brainer. Here's what we're doing. When you buy the QLS, you get another strategy call. So it's like you get 2 coaching calls. You get the 31-day billionaire course. Joe, I'm sure, is familiar with Dr. Joe Vitale from The Secret. He and I and Zach and Nick filmed this course. It's a one a day video for 31 days. Now you'll own it. Our students go through it every few months. You'll own it forever. But it's meant for 1 day a month, so you can get that mental piece straight. That's a bigger piece than anyone realizes in real estate. And then the live buyer calls that Joe talked about that are in the course. Well, we have more in another course by itself, and then we have more seller calls, over 100 of them in a course by itself. You get all this for free. And then we have an event coming up next week. So literally right before the master's class here, Zach said, let's make sure we give them the event. It's next week and it's virtual. So you might as well come and hang out. It's free. And so all of that is a couple $1,000, $2,500 worth of stuff. So when you buy the QLS at the discount at $797, you get all this. And the team's set up to go ahead and handle that for Joe's group. So just go to the smartrealestatecoach.com/Joe M. And it's all yours. Joe, we can do some Q&A for sure.
Chris, let me just take a quick sec just because I want them to understand what they're going to be getting at this event as well. Biz Scaling Secrets is one of 4 events that we host. It's a 2-day event. We have some amazing top-level speakers that are going to be there. But most importantly, what we're teaching there is how to help you build and scale your business. So if you're just getting started, we want to teach you the basics. We want to teach you the systems. That way you can start getting deals done. Right? Someone who's just getting started, scaling could mean 1 deal or 1 deal a month. And then those who are more active, more seasoned, maybe are even involved in other niches, we're going to teach you how to be able to implement our team philosophy, implement our systems and our processes so that you can begin to start building and scaling this business and take you from a 6 to a 7-figure business owner, what we like to call crossing the line. So that's going to be our full direction of our event.
Yeah, this is really good, guys. And people are asking me, hey, Joe, is this similar to your lease options course? And in some ways, yes. But in some ways, I've always believed in getting as big of a round of an education as you can. I teach a lot of the same strategies, but their angle is very different than mine in a lot of good, simple ways. There's different ways that Chris and Zach find their sellers. They have different scripts. I focus more on lease options. Chris and Zach focus on different strategies, owner financing, lease options, and subject twos, and a lot of in between. So you're going to find different avenues and different perspectives. If you want to be an expert in creative financing, my advice has always been buy as many courses on creative financing as you can. I've literally invested, well, a couple $100,000s over the last 15 years on my education, masterminds, courses, and coaching and stuff like that. But guys, I've gotten back many, many times over from that. So when I want to dive deep into something, a new strategy, a new marketing tactic, I buy everything I can on that topic, right? You want to deep dive and immerse yourself into this. And Zach and Chris are going to have different perspectives. They're going to help you see it different ways that maybe I couldn't. So what's the difference? Different multiple perspectives, right? And it's so important that if you want to be an expert in creative financing, buy as many books, as many podcasts, as many courses, as many coaching programs as you can, so you can become an expert. Just learning how Chris and Zach explain the lease option process is going to be a little different than the way I explain it to a seller, which is going to help you do more deals, right? So anyway, I encourage you guys to check that out.
Yeah, Joe, that's why Zach said earlier, I don't know if you guys caught it, but we were at Note School. He said, while we were working on a deal, we were at Note School because Eddie Speed said, hey, I got this private group. I'm going to be teaching like